Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Disney tie-in games thing marathon that we have of sorts. Okay, today we're doing the SNES version of Aladdin. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time since we've done the Mega Drive game. So yeah, this is the Capcom SNES game designed by Shinji Mikami. Yes,
oh my God,
Shinji Mikami.
Welcome to Agrabah, City of Mystery, of Enchantment.
Actually, I'd rather Jova do this with the merchant voice since he's the one who did it in the previous game. Go ahead, Jova. Ugh.
I can see you are only interested in the exceptionally rare. I think, then, you would be most rewarded to consider this video game. Like so many things, it is not what is outside, but what is inside.
Oh my God, it really is like the beginning of a Sonic.exe called creepypasta.
This lamp once changed the course of a young man's life. Oh, I remember playing this game
on the GBA.
Game Boy Advance.
Yes, Capcom.
How did you know I was going to say that?
I will. Well, you already told me off commentary, but we'll get into it. For now, let's just watch the intro. After all my years of search, oh sorry, you're right, Theo. Sorry, go on.
After all my years of searching, the cable wanders. Now remember,
Dwebs, it can be Gazim.
The rest of the treasure is yours. But the lamp is mine. Also, if you see a kid with a giant key...
Oh, never mind. Never mind. Now that I think about it, I don't think
Kazim... Sir, not speaking this time.
I think... Sorry, Dwebs, I forgot.
Is that how it is? I don't get it.
If it helps you, Dwebs, Yago doesn't have any lines either, and I would love to be Yago, but I cannot.
Who disturbed my sleep?
Actually, there
never mind, Dwebs.
It is I, Gazim, a humble thief. Know this. Only one may enter here. One whose worth lies deep within.
It's been a year since I recorded this, so my memory is a bit hazy.
The diamond in the rough. Oh no!
Oh no. So, only one may enter. I must find this one. This diamond in the
Yeah, as you can see, the cutscenes follow the movie pretty much to a T.
Interesting. Even though you can clearly see they are still a bit simplistic, they seem to be still on point.
Yeah, remember that's the one thing that the Capcom game could afford because they weren't rushed like the Mega Drive game, so they could afford to have more elaborate cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I have said, one thing that I feel would have been really cool is if this game had merged elements of this with elements of the SEGA Genesis Aladdin game. Whereas the SEGA Genesis Aladdin game definitely gets down the action with the hack and slash done well, this game has a moveset that pays mind to Aladdin's acrobatics more than the other one.
Yeah, it's a bit more akin to a Prince of Persia game, if... yes, Dibs?
So, Pedro, this version of the game eventually got ported to the Game Boy Advance.
Yes.
So, let me guess, is the screen crunch in that version?
Yes, there's screen crunch in that version. It's not too bad, considering the... I mean, as far as 16-bit ports to... It's better than Earthworm Jim 1 and 2 and Sonic Genesis, but it's still an SNES game ported to the GBA, so there's always going to be some level of screen crunch. So nowadays, the best way to play this game is via the Disney Classic Games Collection, because the Disney Classic Games Collection that we did last time has since been updated, and now we have this game as a part of it. So if you want to play that game on modern systems, go for the Disney Classic Games Collection. Since they have... Digital Eclipse released the Super Nintendo version. Don't get me wrong, the Game Boy Advance version is fine, but the Super Nintendo version is the overall better version since you have a lot more screen to view things coming. Go on.
Also, did they outright change the soundtrack for the Game Boy Advance version?
Yes. Yes, they did. Because, well, as you know, Jova, the GBA didn't exactly have the best sound speakers and sound hardware. So, yeah, the music was slightly touched up to sound better on the GBA.
Not only that, but if I recall correctly, they changed some of the melodies. Like, this one sounds more, literally one jump ahead, whereas in the GBA version, it's, I
think it's an original tune, I think, isn't it?
Not necessarily a generic tune. It's still inspired by One Jump Ahead, but it definitely has a much different melody.
Yeah, that's because when Capcom released this game on the GBA back in the early 2000s, as we talked about before, music rights are their own can of worms, so I'm guessing Capcom wasn't willing to pay the extra dough to include all the tracks, maybe.
So yeah, as you can see, Aladdin is very acrobatic in this game. You have to use his vault and whatnot to not only jump over obstacles, but also use it to vault over enemies and use them.
I can tell.
Apples in this game help with the stun.
Yeah, just like in the Mega Drive game, you can use apples to throw enemies. However, you do not have a sword. Instead, this game works more like a swordless Prince of Persia, if you want to call it that. So yeah, that being said, okay, well, I can tell you, Jova, that the new release on the Disney Classic Games Collection is the SNES version with the music completely intact. So yeah, basically, just get your Switch and get the collection there. That way,
it was kind of.
Like, even if you want to go about what about playing on the go? Trust me, get the collection on the Switch. There's no need to play the GBA version at this point.
Yeah, the Switch can literally be played on the go as well.
Hence my point. Yep.
But yeah, it is interesting seeing the SNES version because the GBA version is the one I grew up with. Still love that game, but yeah, let me put it like this. The music's not bad, but they're done in that way where you feel like this feels so much like the tunes. Why didn't they just go for the actual
I don't know if that version had the same composers, but for this version, 3 are credited. Yuki Iwaki, Yuko Takehara, and Setsuo Yamamoto. Roughly combining, all 3 of these work on mostly just Capcom games, specifically stuff like the first couple of Mega Man X games, some of the Final Fight games, and some of them even for the early X-Men vs. Street Fighter, crossovers that Capcom had with Marvel.
But yeah, getting into the swing of things, Aladdin for the Super Nintendo is a side-scrolling action platformer that was actually created by Shinji Mikami. Yes, that Shinji Mikami, the creator of Resident Evil. So yeah, here's a fun fact. I've mentioned this in our Toy Story 2 run, but I might as well mention it here as well for the sake of self-containment. Here's a fun fact about the two games. In the years since these two games came out, David Perry said that he actually prefers this one. When asked the same question, Shinji Mikami says that he prefers David Perry's game. So
was this like some in-joke between the two or something?
I don't know, Joe. Maybe it's just fellow developer solidarity. Maybe I don't know.
It could have also been a case of each developer kind of thinks where the thing that they did work on might not have like a classic case of the thing that I did in the past could have been improved, thus I'm not liking it as much, and in this case they prefer the competition.
It's like,
I can kind of get what one may have seen in the other. Like I mentioned, if you want a platformer that gets down Aladdin's acrobatics more in keen with the gameplay, this one is the one for you.
Yeah.
In contrast, the SEGA Genesis one is a lot more action-oriented, which can also be something that really drags in the audiences here and there. So I can see why each developer may have preferred the other version here in hindsight.
For me, it's like I've mentioned in our run of the Mega Drive game, I prefer the Mega Drive game because I feel like the action-packed direction that game took fits the style of the movie better, I feel. Don't get me wrong, the acrobatics aspect of this one is nice too. However, it's just so much fun hacking enemies with the sword and everything.
That being said, one thing this game definitely does better is the boss fights.
Yes, the boss battles, again, considering the game, the Mega Drive game had to be done over the course of 6 months. Yeah, the boss battles in the Mega Drive game are not great. They're not terrible necessarily, but yeah, it's like when you play it, knowing how the game was rushed for 6 months, you can tell because they had to cut some corners here and there. As for this one, okay, so. Here's the thing about this game. This game is focused entirely more on basic classic platform. It's a classic Capcom game, so it focuses a lot on platforming. There you go. Whereas the Mega Drive game was also a platformer, it also focused a lot on action set pieces. This one is a pure platformer, through and through. There you go. And yes, you jump on enemies by jumping on them. Again, old school platformer logic. One thing that I will definitely say that I say about this game is in terms of the soundtrack, not because of the quality of the remixes themselves. The quality of the remixes is fine. I prefer Tommy's remixes, but that's neither here nor there. The only real thing that really puts the Mega Drive soundtrack above this one is the fact that it includes all the songs from the movie, whereas this one only has 3. It doesn't have Arabian Night. It doesn't have well, in the case of this one, okay, hold on, cutscene.
Oh, it's the merchant.
Yeah, there's one. Okay, if there's one thing.
To fight this guy.
Yes.
Really?
Okay. Yes. If there's one thing that this game definitely has over the Mega Drive game is the presentation, specifically the visual and cutscene presentation, definitely. Because well, okay, let me rephrase that. Actually, the cutscene presentation specifically. Because it follows the story of the movie a lot better. Reminder for those who, since it's been a while, the Mega Drive game had to cut down on the cutscenes because, well, the game was rushed over the course of 6 months because of, the development history that we've talked about. So something had to be sacrificed, and in their case, it was the cutscenes. Yes.
Yeah, believe it or not, the merchant is actually serious in the game.
Well, remember, he did try to kill Aladdin in the movie too. So.
From my recent experience in that case, time for me is a flat circle. This game had to sacrifice cuts. Did you say it was this game that had to sacrifice the cuts?
No, the Mega Drive one. This one. Go on.
So the Mega Drive game had to sacrifice cutscenes for everything else. So did another game I played recently, Hitman 2.
Oh, really?
I know, Adam just killed a guy.
Same thing.
And there you go. We saved Jasmine from the merchant. All right.
Really? That was fast.
Okay. So yeah, like I was saying, this game only has 3 songs from the soundtrack. One Jump Ahead, Friend Like Me, and A Whole New World. Whereas the Mega Drive game actually does have the entire soundtrack, so that's definitely one aspect that will definitely, if you want more of the movie music experience, yeah, the Mega Drive game does beat this one. That being said, cutscene. Together, Aladdin and Jasmine. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were. Sorry. Go on.
Run to Aladdin's home, high above Agrabah. I thought the idea was that the narrator.
Yes, I'm a mistake. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, they enjoy the view and discuss their dreams for the future. Unfortunately, they are found by the guards, who drag Aladdin off to
The Aladdin
palace
sequel.
dungeon, and Jasmine back to her father, the Sultan.
The palace dungeon. That sounds like being forced to watch Aladdin 2 on the loop.
Aladdin is thrown into the deepest cell of the dungeon. But all he can think about is the beautiful princess.
Simp.
No, oh fuck, I'm trapped.
And suddenly it's voiced by Matthew Broderick.
No, he's
Astray.
watching the rip-off Aladdin movies.
Come on an adventure to the Cave of Wonders. Glad to get out of prison, Aladdin doesn't suspect that the old man is actually Jafar in disguise.
Dun dun dun.
Alright, so I mentioned recently...
Oh, I could have sworn in the GBA version that there was actually a level for the prison break.
No.
Nah.
Remember, Joe, this game doesn't even have the Arabian Night song. Go ahead, Blibs, yes?
Oh,
So-
wait, no, you're right. That's the SEGA Genesis version that does the prison break level.
Yes.
So recently, me and Pedro rewatched the second Aladdin movie, Return of Jafar, a quote-unquote film that was really just a TV pilot in disguise. And the best I can say about it is that it had one decent song for Jafar, good vocal performances, even from Genie's replacement.
Then Castellaneta.
And it's not the worst direct-to-DVD. It's not the worst direct-to-video Disney sequel.
Personally, I feel like that movie is fine. However, I will not blame people for throwing a fit at that movie, because from what I've researched and studied, Disney were hyping up that movie to be like the next coming of the Disney.
I can help you there, Joe. But yes, back in the 90s, because I lived through that. Oh, yeah. That's another. Again, the cutscene presentation is definitely the best in this one, because yeah, they even have in-game cutscenes like the one we just saw.
Who also works as a good little guide who can tell you when it's safe to go down a certain pitch.
To be fair too, like we also had an original boss battle in the Cave of Wonders in the Mega Drive game.
I know. It's just a bit out of nowhere. Sorry, go on.
Walking swords too.
What you were saying, Pedro?
I was saying that yes, back in 1994, Jova, yes, they didn't even a hint that this was supposed to be a pilot. They literally sold this to you as the sequel to the hit movie Aladdin. So yeah, they was sold to us as an Aladdin sequel, not as a TV pilot. So obviously, people went in with with a certain level of expectations that the movie wasn't exactly trying to live up to, basically.
Yeah, put it this way. As just kind of meh I am on Lion King 2, that felt more like a proper sequel to a Disney Renaissance film than Aladdin 2 was.
Also,
Like-
how come you get to ride the carpet and we don't?
I don't
Okay.
think more than riding in a boot just got basically
Okay.
spirited by.
Allow me. Okay, this is actually one of those cases where I will definitely say that I prefer the version of this level on the Mega Drive, because I feel like this level, the Cave of Wonders level, is a bit slow. Don't get me wrong. This is a traditional platform. I understand what the game is going for, but at the same time, just sitting around here on logs is just one of those things where it's just like, couldn't you come up with something better than just sitting here on a log? I don't know.
I could no, Pedro, I got it. Maybe someone misheard the title of the game in development. I thought, wait, I'm making a login. Okay then. No, I said no. I meant I need your login password. Oh, you want a log level? Okay. No, that's not what I meant.
It's a slow log ride on a waterfall, so technically part water level as well.
Yes.
well,
kind
Not
of.
doing it any favors.
Well, I mean,
Fuck.
okay, actually, no. I would say at least it's not a desert level, but it's in the desert.
Well,
Yeah, this is set in the desert.
This is a desert game, Dwebs.
so
Time to
by
moon
my
jump.
So by my logic, this should be my least favorite game of all time.
just to get back there quickly. But it gives me time to also talk about. That's the problem with Return of Jafar. It was sold to us as an Aladdin sequel, which it was not meant to be by the creators.
Well, okay, technically it was an Aladdin sequel, and you know what? And okay, don't get me wrong, the Aladdin TV series was great. Helped set the precedent for a lot of amazing Disney TV series that we would get. Like, I will give Disney this. Like, if there's one thing they did do great with the Renaissance, it was knowing how to, expand these fairy tales with, TV series. Lion King got Timon and Pumbaa, the Little Mermaid series got a prequel series, Aladdin got a sequel series, Hercules! That one got a series that still confuses people trying to decipher the lore to this day, because supposedly it takes place in the time that Herc is training, even though we have all these schemes by Hades who should not know that he's alive yet here and there, or the fact that, Herc is apparently
There
getting
you
guidance from his dad here and there to a point where it's odd and, it's anachronistic.
Abu!
Still a good
No!
series, mind you. I
Right.
don't know.
Go ahead, Dwebs. Oh, sorry.
Shit.
Infidels.
Okay.
Stage 2 clear. Yes, that's your password.
Stage get.
All right, and we got
Hey,
three
you got 3 Chaos Emeralds.
rubies
Now,
actually.
one thing that I do believe is different is that in the GBA version, you have letters as your password. As soon as Abu touches the gem, the cave begins to collapse. Well done, dipshit. They're going to have to get out of there.
I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, if this was, the Thief and the Cobbler, we could have Matthew Broderick say that.
Basically.
Yes.
Another thing that I will also like to say that I personally prefer the Mega Drive game, and this is in no way an attempt to diss the game's visuals, because the game looks really good for a Super Nintendo game. It's just that you can't beat this 90s Disney animators when it comes to that. Like the hand-drawn animation used for the Mega Drive game looks so good, and it still looks great to this day. I mean, it's not even Capcom's animators' fault. It's just that that game had the advantage of having some of the world's greatest animators working on it. So obviously they're going to be they're going to have an unfair advantage, but it doesn't change the fact that that game looks gorgeous and it does look better than this one. Although this one still looks good. No, I'm not trying to say that this game looks bad. On its own merits, it looks really
give them
good.
credit. The animations that they do feel actually in character with the movie itself. So, obviously they didn't have the advantage that the David Perry game had. I'd say that they still did give a good all.
Oh, definitely.
Like I said, honestly, what would have been the best outcome is a game that fused elements from the two versions of Aladdin.
Yeah, for those who don't remember, you might be wondering, why do we even have two Aladdin games to begin with if Disney considered the Mega Drive one as the actual proper tie-in, since they even co-worked on it? That's because the reason this game exists to begin with is because at the time Capcom still had a contract that they made with Disney where they were allowed to make Disney tie-in games to any of the movies and TV shows that were coming out. It was only later when that contract expired that Disney didn't renew the contract, and and that's why the Lion King game is the same on the Super Nintendo. The reason the Mega Drive game couldn't have an SNES version is because Capcom had the rights to exclusive Super Nintendo Disney games at the time. So basically, they made their own Aladdin game.
Yeah, but we'll make our
I
own
will say
Aladdin
this
game.
also. The carpet minigame in this game is not nearly as unfair as the carpet minigame in the Sega Genesis one can be. Don't get me wrong, I do like the carpet minigame in the Sega Genesis version, but it has that infamous thing where it really becomes you have to remember exactly how this goes, whereas this one feels like there's more room for error and properly learning as opposed to needing to memorize stuff.
I personally can't handle things fine, like I showed in the playthrough, where I usually just like to mash to abuse the pause feature to slow down the action on my end. That's what I always did when I was a kid. That being said, that level still has that thing at the very end where the final dodge thing is not even told you, is instead says a question mark and you're supposed to guess, which is bullshit. So yeah, definitely something that could have been handled better. And trust me, Jova. David Perry himself has said that he hates the fact that he was rushed, and he has said in recent years that he really wishes he could have improved on a lot of things, like the camera, for example. So
maybe someday we'll get a remake.
Well, when Digital Eclipse made the Disney Classic Collection, they did touch up the camera, as they said in the collection. That being said, yeah, it's a more in-depth revamp would be probably necessary to draw out the full potential. But yeah, that's something that at this point is probably not something we're going to get, unless of course a fan takes matters into his own hands.
I will give them credit. It was kind of amazing that they actually did go out of the way to pay the royalties to include this version onto the Disney collection.
There was, according to Digital Eclipse, there was a popular demand, and most people were asking, "Hey, where's the Super Nintendo game?" So Digital Eclipse went to Not Interactive, who went to Disney, and they said, "Hey, people want the Super Nintendo games. Okay, fine, let's add it in as DLC."
I can get it because this game is pretty iconic.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where, like Jova said, it's one of those things where I personally think there's just an innate really greatness to the Mega Drive game, because I'm still convinced that if that game had the same year all right. Go ahead.
Aladdin and Abu escape and deliver the lamp to Jafar. But he tricks them and seals them into the cave. Fortunately, Abu cleverly stole the lamp from Jafar. In order to read the writing on the old lamp, Aladdin rubs it with his sleeve. A genie appears and declares that Aladdin is his new master. But first, he invites Aladdin into the lamp, where he can in fact die. No, I'm not kidding, actually. This next level is Genie taking us into the lamp, and you can die.
Yeah.
And
it seems...
this.
Go on.
You know what's funny? If you die at certain points, you will actually get reactions from Genie about you dying.
Yes. It seems like both developers had similar ideas. Both of them came up with the idea of a level within the lamp. And yes, of course, obviously we have Friend Like Me playing here, but
yeah. Now this is definitely one of those cases where in the GBA version they came up with a more original tune, which is going for the style of Friend Like Me, but is blatantly different in melody with Friend Like Me.
Gotta dodge those copyrights, Jova.
Okay, the only ROM hack that I found is apparently someone that activates a faster ROM and basically allows the performance to be actually smooth. but that's actually it. The closest I could find is that apparently people made bootleg, sort of a bootleg version of this specific version of the game for the NES, and I'm asking why.
Sorry, what? Theo, could you remind me what was?
Again, I guess I mentioned before, I was curious to see.
There you go. See.
Yeah.
I was actually curious
That's
to
not
see
the
if
only
there
thing that
were.
happened.
Go on, Theo. Go on.
I was actually wondering if there were particular ROM hacks of this particular version of the game. The only one that I could find specifically for this version is one that actually unlocks the performance of it by activating fast ROM, as it's mentioned here. I didn't provide an example. But the more amusing thing is that there are a set of ROM hacks that not converts, but basically have this version as a base for making a bootleg NES version, and I'm pondering why even.
It happens more often than you think. Some people like to just, try their hand at doing things like that. Here's the thing about the games. The thing that people need to also remember is that the Mega Drive game was originally being developed by Blue Sky Software, the same guys who made the Jurassic Park game that we covered. And that's the main reason why that game had a much shorter development cycle than this one. I'm still convinced, like I said in our playthrough of the Mega Drive game, that if David and his team this was David and his team back when they were at their prime, I'm still convinced that if they had a full year to make that game would probably be just like absolutely amazing all around in every aspect, because it really was one of those cases where they and the fact that the game is as good as it is already an impressive accomplishment on part of David's team. I really wish to see what would have been like, but oh well, we don't live in that world, sadly.
To bring things back to this game, it's not just that genie reaction that you saw, but believe it or not, the blocks, and if I recall correctly, even the balloons, do actually react if you die.
Yes, the animators did do a good job in trying to capture the personality of the genie. Definitely, it's one of those cases where it's just like, Capcom's animators did a really good job with what they had. It's just that like when you take a look at all those funny animations that these animators put up, it's just one of those cases where like the impressive talent on display is just undeniable. Like one of my favorite, like to this day, of all the custom SEGA logos that the Mega Drive games all had, that one, my favorite is still the Aladdin one, because it literally starts with Genie shooting a gun and killing Yago. It's just like, that's such great dark humor that I just love it. Yeah, that's the basic gist of it. Shiroi, have you actually played this game in any capacity? Are you familiar with it at all?
Nope.
Okay. Well, back in your day, there was a GBA version. I don't know if you ever saw that.
No. I mean, it seems fine. It's just, no, this is the first time I'm seeing this.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tay? What do you think? Sorry.
Period version, though, I would say.
I had heard of its existence, but never obviously tried it myself. Nor I obviously did not knew which version had which specific qualities between the two before at least we commented it on the Genesis version. Again, I want to save a proper, more secure take on this for the final thoughts. But what I have to say for right now is that while the soundtrack itself is not technically bad, for the resume that these composers tend to have, this is slightly disappointing, I have to say.
It's one of those things where that's the thing too. As we saw in the behind-the-scenes footage of the Disney Classic Games collection, Tommy was actually given the actual score sheets by Disney. So just like the artists, Tommy also had an advantage as well on that regard.
It's not even that, Pedro. Like, even for the original tracks, again, like you said, at least two of these people scored for the early Mega Man X games.
Oh, really?
In comparison, this soundtrack has no energy compared to those.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not really big on the sound fonts in this game.
Okay, to be fair, that one is to be blamed on the Super Nintendo soundtrack.
I don't know.
That
Again,
was a thing.
I don't know, Tia. Since you mentioned the early Mega Man X games, X1 and X2 have better sound font than this.
The thing about the Super Nintendo sound chip, and I've noticed this ever since I started watching the Console Wars YouTube channel, where they do Super Nintendo versus Mega Drive versions of games. One thing that I started to notice is that a lot of times, when it comes to games that came out on both platforms, a lot of times the Mega Drive soundtracks sound muffled. Like, for example, Earthworm Jim. Let's use Earthworm Jim as an example. The SNES soundtrack on that game sounds muffled in comparison to the Mega Drive one. And yes, I know that that's because Tommy originally made those tracks with the Mega Drive sound chip in mind, but still, it really is one of the... For some reason, sometimes the Super Nintendo music would sound muffled on some games. It's weird. I think, but
actually a common thing in a lot of them. Actually, like, let me put it this: the SNES technically could get better audio quality. I think that was like to the expense that they had to pack it in more tightly.
Okay, that's the thing. Based on what I've seen, Jova, my conclusion is that the Mega Drive is better at handling electronic music, whereas the Super Nintendo tends to be better at imitating an orchestra, it seems, because the Super Nintendo music, the Super Nintendo version of Lion King, for example, has the better soundtrack. It even has the choir and during the Circle of Life song, whereas the Circle of Life tune in the Mega Drive is entirely instrumental with no vocals whatsoever.
Exactly. Like, I mean, the Super Nintendo could get better quality sounding instruments and whatnot. That said, it wouldn't always sound as energetic in some cases as SEGA Genesis, which could pretty much, boogie down with that stuff.
All right, so see you for the next part, everybody, where we finish the game.
Yeah.